funny title and that I was supposed to read it for class. It gave me no interest, and I didn't finish my 3 chapters that night. So today, we're going to start our own novel, but before I do that, I want to see, have you had any experiences like mine? I'm sure you've all had wonderful teachers, but maybe there was a time when they gave you an assignment that you didn't have any instruction for. So maybe talk within your groups. Do you ever have an experience like mine? It'll be a minute or so.
Oh, really? Here's these basic guidelines and tuition, and then bring it in the next day. So we did, and it was awkward. So very confusing. And it was wrong, of course. You mean that we read the entire book? Yeah, I'm reading it. Yeah, it really comes like I never read it. Just seeing me like the Scarlet Iron, I thought it was going to be super confusing because it's written.
All right, does anyone have an experience they want to share? Anything that was really powerful? Yeah, ma'am.
I'll share. No. I read Pride and Prejudice for my Brit Lit class, and even though I've seen the movie probably 100 times, I couldn't understand the book at all. Right over my head.
I remember having to read the Scarlet Letter in 9th grade, and literally, like, in the first chapter, I was just looking at all of the words that didn't need to be there to get the story across to me, and it was so frustrating. I didn't even finish the book. I actually ended up sparknoting it because it was too much.
Yeah.
I had an English teacher who assigned us to memorize like parts of a sonnet by Shakespeare, and we had to like memorize it and say it in front of the class. And I got up there and all like I didn't understand anything about it, so I just said cows, pasture, sunlight.
Okay. Alright, so yeah, it seems like you guys have had experiences like mine. So today, when we start a new book, instead of jumping right in, we're going to investigate it a little bit before we even start reading. The book we're going to start is called Bronx Masquerade, and I'm going to put it up here on the dot cam so you can all see the cover. So it's called Bronx Masquerade, written by Nikki Grimes. And can anyone tell me what the Bronx is? Does anyone know? Yes.
It's a borough of New York City.
Yes, good, thank you. It's actually located in northern New York City. So yes, it's part of New York. So now that we kind of have a setting, what about the second word? What does masquerade mean? You all have an interactive reading guide today that's going to kind of guide us in our questions. And for the first one, I would like you to just silently think about that word, think about where you've heard it. Maybe you know a definition, maybe you don't. Just write down what you know about the word masquerade. 30 more seconds to kind of get your thoughts down. Okay. Can I maybe get a couple volunteers to share what they know about the word masquerade? Okay, so it's like a ball, like a masquerade, it's like a party you go to?
It can be like a disguise or a series of movements designed to confuse someone else, so
Okay.
like taken less literally.
Okay. Yeah.
I also thought of it as a verb, or to hide something or to cover up.
Good, good. Allie?
There's a masquerade in Phantom of the Opera.
There is. There is.
I would say I get like a creepy, eerie vibe from it because anywhere I've seen it, this way is like just creepy, like in Mask of Red Death, and in Revenge it's creepy, and Sweeney Todd it's creepy.
Okay. So maybe it has a negative connotation to you. That's it.
Go along with the masks for the ball. I think it's a way that when you're in your home, you have a different personality, a different view, and then when you're out in public in the Bronx, you have a different perspective, a different view.
Very good. You're putting the two words together. I like that. All right. Does anyone have one last thing they want to share with that? Something that we missed? Okay. I think you guys have some pretty good definitions there. I've heard a lot of words thrown around. I've heard so maybe false or pretending you talked about. I've heard hiding. Heard a lot of really good words. You pretty much all hit, with your collaboratively, you pretty much hit the definition right on the nose, because the official definition of masquerade is a false show or pretense, or in the verb use would be pretending to be someone you're not. So, now that we know a little bit about the title, we've kind of figured that part out. There is an introduction to this book that I would like to read to you guys. I'm going to put it up, also up on the doc cam, so if you work better with seeing writing, you can follow along as I read. It's called Tyrone Biddings. School ain't nothing but a joke. My moms don't want to hear that, but if it weren't for Wesley and my other homies, I wouldn't even be here, all right? These white folk talking about some future, telling me I need to be planning for some future, like I got one. And Reynard agreed that he's smart enough to know. From what I hear, that boy can't hardly read. Anyway, it's them white folk that get me with all this future mess. White folk. Who do they think they're kidding? They might as well go blow smoke up somebody else's you-know-what, because a black man's got no chance in this country. I'd be lucky if I make it to 21 with all these fools running around with AK-47s. Here I am, one of the few kids I know whose daddy didn't skip out on him, and he didn't even make it to 30. He was doing okay until he got blown away one Saturday. Bam. Another statistic in a long line of drive-bys. Life is cold. Future? What I got is right now, right here, spending time with my homies. Wish there was some future to talk about. I could use me some future. So it's a pretty powerful introduction to this book. And I think it really can get us thinking about what's going to happen. So in your small groups, I want you to look at your third question on your interactive reading guide and talk about what predictions can you make based off of what we know from the title and what we've now heard from Tyrone in the introduction. So talk within your groups. I'll give you a few minutes to do that. What predictions can you make?
The environment, gotcha. Did you read this one?
Just first
I like that. Very Sorry to be reviewing that. He's black. It's really like gray. If I get like I usually talk about
Alright, so does anyone want to share the predictions? What do you think is going to happen? Yeah, Emily.
That either Reynard or Wesley, but probably Reynard, is going to meet something like some unfortunate end because he's actually trying for a future, and it seems like the main character doesn't really care. So he talked about how his daddy was in a drive-by, and I feel like something unfortunate is going to happen to the one guy who wants to have a future but doesn't necessarily have means to have one.
Okay.
To kind of turn this main character's ideas and thought process around.
That's good. I like that you're looking at the characters, the multiple ones. Anyone else?
I said Tyrone will probably find a way to deviate from the society he was placed in and make something bigger of himself.
Okay, okay, so you're thinking about society. That's really interesting. Anyone else? And
I'm thinking since it's like with the masquerade thing, maybe he's gonna put on a front in front of his friends so he doesn't lose them, but then behind the scenes, like trying to build a future for himself.
yes, I like that. Okay. Anyone else? Fiction? Okay. So I think those are all really good. You guys really seem to be building off context clues, what we've already talked about. I think that's really awesome. So I do want to give you, before I send you home to read the first 3 chapters tonight, which you are going to do, I want to give you a little bit of what the storyline is. So Bronx Masquerade is about a high school English classroom in the Bronx. And the teacher of this English class starts a poetry unit with his students. And it's kind of risky for this teacher to do this because each of his students, most of them don't really care about school. You'll read about that. Most of them have other important things going on in their life that they don't think that they're going to care about poetry at all. So and it's written a little bit differently than what you and I may be used to. It's actually written from the perspective of each and every student in the classroom. So essentially, you're going to get to hear 18 different voices and read about each of these students' lives. And then you get to read the poem that they write for English class. It's very interesting. And you're going to get to see a lot of things, a lot of different stories. But there is one thing that kind of unites all the students, even though they're all so different. And that is kind of what Annie was talking about, is that they're all masquerading in some way. So as you go home and read tonight, I want you to fill out the last question in your interactive reading guide. That's going to be your homework. Because I want you to think about what are they masquerading as, and maybe have you ever had a time in your life when you were masquerading? Look at their stories and see if you can see any connections. Because I want you to start thinking about this, because at the end of our novel unit, we are going to start our own poetry unit. And your first assignment is going to be to write an autobiographical poem. So I want you to get started with this, really think about it, and really look at their stories and answer that last question. All right, so that's all I have for you guys today. Be sure to do your reading tonight, and I'll see you all tomorrow.